Welcome to Ryan Madden, Needham High School's new athletic director, and Richkaard Verrier, a new Needham High School assistant athletic director.
Thank you.
Appreciate you guys being here for a little bit.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
So, brand new to Needham, and Ryan, why don't you tell us a little bit about where you came from before you landed this position?
Sure. Yeah, I'm a Milton High School graduate. Graduated Milton High in 2012. Through a couple of schools, ended up back at Milton High School as a special education job coach. Had an intern in some athletic departments on the way. Landed the athletic directing position in 2017. So I've been the AD. I was the AD there for 6 years. Assisted the year prior. When this position opened and Dan Lee was going to move on to LS, it just seemed too good of an opportunity to pass up. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm excited.
Well, we went through a search process for both of you, and glad you landed here. And Richkaard, glad you're here on board too. You're coming to us from Brookline.
Yes, coming from Brookline, where I was for the past 6 years. I actually started off as an in-school suspension coordinator there for the first 4 years, and the assistant AD position opened up there, and I was fortunate enough to jump in and get that opportunity. So that's really where it all started at Brookline. And then, of course, this position here opened up. And once again, whenever you see something at Needham open up, it's too good to not go for it. So very fortunate enough to be in this role.
Talk to me about the transition to Needham, and what you're experiencing and seeing, and what's that looking so far? It's a little bit of drinking out of a fire hose, but what's that experience been this past summer? It
was a slow summer without the kids. I think once the students came back on Wednesday, the excitement came back, and then it kind of hit you right in the face, and we're right into games, and it's been a fun start. It really has.
Now, you both were part of and organized a coaches meeting, which I think happens this summer. What was your messaging there? What happened there, Richkaard?
So the coaches meeting. The main message was the wins and losses are great, but that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for, our coaches to develop the student athletes as people. That's
great. Now, what would you say that and it's only been a few months, so it's probably unfair, but what are you learning about Needham? We always in our lives compare and contrast from what we more recently were or doing to where we are now. What are some of the differences you're experiencing? Like, oh, okay, this is going to be a little different for me. This culture is a little different.
The involvement, I'd say the involvement, the engagement, and it's a great thing. Whether it's the involvement from the coaches in the students' lives as a student, as a person, as an athlete, but the involvement of the community, the support from the boosters. We've met with not just coaches over the summer. In the past month, we've met with parents that have been engaged. We've met with parents that have helped out start club programs. There's really a ton of engagement. Everyone's really excited.
People from local newspapers.
Yep.
Yep.
Have you met the trustees?
Program.
A couple of them.
Couple
of them. Yes.
All right.
Club director, program directors.
Yep. And everyone's on the same page. I think that you can definitely tell.
Yeah, and I imagine too. I mean, we are unique in respect that we have all these programs. There's a large program, but we really don't have any of the venues.
Right.
You're learning now that you have to tap into the Parks and Rec director and to the trustees and to this group to secure venues and facilities and make it all work.
Absolutely. I will say this. I told Ryan it's a perfect balance because he was coming from slightly a smaller school. He was fortunate enough to have a field on campus and facilities nearby, whereas I was coming from the opposite in Brookline, a very large school with just as many athletic programs, and our fields and facilities are scattered all around between Brookline, Boston,
so you're used to
Brighton,
moving things around.
So things that he wasn't used to, he could lean on me and my experience from Brookline. Whereas things that I'm not used to, I could lean on him and his experience. So it really is like the perfect balance.
Well, it's that I can see this developing as a great partnership, and that was the idea, especially having both of you come on board. So I know that the high school community is excited about it. You've had a lot of, you've met with coaches, and you've got athletes coming in. Any stories right now to share about any of our coaches or athletes? that are springing up?
No stories yet, but I think we've met them in a very informal setting so far. We've seen them practicing. We've seen them in the training room, in the weight room, in the gym. We're in the next couple of weeks we'll be putting together our student athlete leadership team, so we can have a chance to hear from them and hear their experience and what we can improve upon and what we can continue to do well. And
so talk about that. What's the student athlete? What does that look like? You're trying to get student athletes engaged and involved, get their voice. To what end?
And you said it all. So we're looking for their voice. I think a lot of the stuff that we do, we do as athletic directors, we do as coaches, we do as teachers, and we kind of facilitate. But we're looking for, what do you guys want to do as students? What do they want? How do we increase fan engagement? How do we increase a sense of community? How do we give back to the community? How do we make sure that the trash is picked up at Memorial?
Yes.
And how do we do some of these things that again, you have students at Pollard come up here, and then you have the high school kids come down, and they're going to be at the high school. So a lot of stuff we're going to be working on.
Yep.
Really about leadership. As Rich said earlier, we're looking to develop good people and develop leaders first and foremost. So, and that's going to be, that student athlete leadership team is going to be a mix of captains, underclassmen, freshmen, not just senior captains who may already have a voice. Yep. We're looking for some kids that don't have a voice yet and have some good ideas and can give us a different perspective of how we can improve the program.
And another thing is, I always like to tell my student athletes, whether you like it or not, when you're an athlete anywhere, people are looking up to you. Mm-hmm. Whether you don't want that spotlight or not, it's just the way things are. People will know that you are part of the volleyball team, girls or boys. They're going to know that you play on the football team. They're going to know that you're on the field hockey team. So it's not about just when you're in school, but also when you're out in the community. People know who you are, and we want to make sure that they are representing not only Needham, but themselves at the highest standard.
It's a great message. I'm thinking about you're having these conversations with the coaches. You're having these conversations with students. What's the message for parents? You know, parents they're going to be on the sidelines. They're going to be up in the bleachers. What do we tell parents who sometimes get a little bit anxious about what's happening out there, and what are the messages we're sharing with them?
I don't know if we have enough time, but no, there's 400 football coaches in the stands, right? And I think we tell coaches, and we said this in our meeting, coaches have such a hard job, is they do everything a teacher does, but they have an audience. So they have to learn how to instruct students with an audience, and they're going through these games, which is really just a test, and they're in the athletes quiz at that moment, and students are going to fail, and coaches are going to make mistakes, and that's fine, as long as we're learning from those mistakes and we're taking that feedback. So the message that I have, and Rich might echo that or have something slightly different, is just support and work with the coaches and work with us, and we'll do whatever we can to enhance the experience and make sure that we have your students' interests in mind. But if a team doesn't win one day, it doesn't mean that the coaches failed or the student failed that day. That's fine. We're going to learn from that. So to support. We love feedback, good and bad. It helps us improve. But if it has to do with wins and losses so much, we're going to kind of change the conversation if we can.
What's happening this fall? What's
not happening?
Yeah. What big things should we be looking for?
We got golf is already 2-0 in the season. They've had two good matches to start the year.
Okay.
Starting out very well.
Most of our other athletic teams begin their regular season next week, so they have the long weekend to really get things in place. Rosters are being formed at the moment. A lot of exciting. If you look at the paper and you look at the people on the outside, right, the Boston Herald and the Metro West News, and everyone's kind of, they got the Needham teams on the radar as far as success in the wins and loss column. But I think we have a lot of good coaches in place. We have two new coaches, Sue McNatt in the cross country team, Kate Curtin of the swim team. Both long-standing coaches and know the system, but excited to start their program and build their program in year one. But again, we have a lot of good coaches in place. I think they've done an amazing job already. They've set the expectations. They communicate really well. So I think the coaches or the community should be excited.
Very excited.
To learn more or to hear updates is through X, formerly Twitter. To get some updates, because that's how I follow a lot when I can't get to every game, but I'm going to try to get to as many as I can. And I will conclude by saying I'm thrilled that both of you are here working as a team on behalf of our students. So have an awesome season, an awesome year and career in the Needham Public Schools.
Go Rockets.
Absolutely.
All right,
Thank you.
go Rockets.
Go Rockets.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.